Hear ye, come one, come all, and welcome to Happy Hour at the Lincoln List episode. I forgot. That was the best Pilgrim. I don't even know if Pilgrims spoke like that. But we got something great here on tap for you on this Happy Hour. We're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. As you can tell from my haberdashery here, I'm sporting today in reference to the holiday. We're going to talk about the markets, and we're going to share a special drink. I'm going to start out this one with, let's just get, because the last couple I've just been talking, and then I got to the drinking. Let's just get to the drinking first because it calls for that. I think we've done maybe, I don't know, 10 of these so far, 11 of these happy hours. I'm just referencing this by a poor memory. And I'm kind of running out of whiskey to purchase every week. So I've now reduced myself to getting little itsy bitsy small bottles for taste tests. We have the Glenlivet 18 on tap for today for the bargain basement price of $6. $6 for this little thing. So that's probably going to be a $70 to $80, maybe upwards of $90 for a 750 ml. On one of these. Now this is a space side, and I'm going to put a map up this time. This is a space side, and usually we're just on the smoky flavors of IIIN, and this is not known for its smoky taste, so, but we've already kind of obliterated that island over the last couple of weeks, so we've got to move on to other areas of Scotland and be fair here. So I'll post the map up here so you can see, for those just kind of curious about the Highlands, Lowlands, Campbellton, and all that good stuff about the different Scotch regions. And as I said in a couple of past happy hours, the taste of Scotch and the way that it's blended really depends on where it comes from. So each area has its own unique taste, and that's what makes it so special, is the way they not blend their Scotch, but distill their Scotch. So we're going to try some of this if we can get this little guy open. I'll put it up there. It's Glenlivet 18. That's kind of a light color. Let's see how much this whole thing gives us. Yeah, we'll just drink the whole thing. How about that? It's not that much. There you go. Not too bad, huh? It's kind of dark. Now, the things I kind of don't like about these, or I don't want to say I don't like, the downfalls I have sometimes with the whiskey is that when you have that IIIN, you taste the alcohol and that rich, smoky flavor. It's kind of like, I would define it as being a rich taste. And again, this is another thing about scotches and just any kind of taste testing, wines, liquor in general, is that your palate has a certain thing it likes. And what tastes a certain way to you doesn't taste a certain way to someone else. That's the beauty of it. So I like that. I feel that's what I'm getting when I go to the IIIN. I get this rich, smoky flavor. When I start to get up to some of the other islands and they remove the smoke, I taste more of the alcohol. And for lack of a better expression, it's like the cheaper the whiskey gets, it feels like the alcohol tastes like watered down piss. Not that I would know what watered down piss tastes like. I'm just making a reference because I have a really limited vocabulary right now. But you kind of smell that alcohol. Now this doesn't quite smell like that, but it does to me, smells a little bit like a wine. So let's give it a drink. Enough of the BS. Let's just drink it and stop being so pretentious about it, right? Yeah, no smoke at all. No smoke at all, but a decent alcohol taste to it. Yeah, a little bit of burn here. Got a little heat in the chest. I think I'm going to need another sip. So, Glenlivet, if you're somebody who does not like the smoky flavor, it's a smooth whiskey. Got a nice, smooth taste. Zero smoke in it at all. I don't taste anything else right now but the alcohol, but it's smooth. It's good. It's a good drinking whiskey. So if you don't like the smoky flavors, then give yourself a little Glenlivet 18. Wouldn't expect it to be that smoky. Remember, because the higher the year. So the Glenlivet, it's a space side, by the way. And I'll put the map up there anyway. So as I'm doing this, it is Thanksgiving. Well, it's now just past Thanksgiving. And this is traditionally one of the more bullish weeks that we see in the market, and it was very bullish. It's sort of like what they quote-unquote call low float crack week, is where you see all the low floats and cheap stocks running. And we really didn't get a whole bunch of those this week, mainly because I think dry ships took all that glory last week. So let's kind of talk about Thanksgiving. The true story behind Thanksgiving. Now, some of you may already know this. Some of you young ones out there may not, but a lot of the things that you are taught is just absolute garbage. And this whole holiday season that we celebrate Thanksgiving and the history of Thanksgiving, the way it is taught to our country, as with a lot of many different things, is a bunch of garbage. You know, we're led to believe, or the story for Thanksgiving was the Pilgrims had come to America and colonized it and became friends with the Indians, invited the Indians to this massive feast, and they all lived happily ever after in what is called America now. Well, it didn't quite work that way. The true story behind Thanksgiving is when the Pilgrims came over here, they didn't have any idea how to survive. They couldn't make crops. They couldn't survive here and hunt and live off of the land. So they befriended some Indians, or they found this Indian. It's called Squanto. Some of you may have heard the name of Squanto. Disney did this watered-down version story of Squanto, which is a good story himself. You know, and to make this very brief, Squanto the Indian was a Native American who was captured several years before by the Spaniards and taken to Spain as a slave, and then he left Spain and was traded to England, where he learned English, and then got out of slavery and made his way back to America. And then when the Pilgrims show up, you know, Squanto's been living off the land for a few years, and he's been through this whole slavery deal, and he's learned how to speak English. So he's a good communication liaison between the Pilgrims and the Indians. So he teaches the Pilgrims how to grow their crops, how to fish, how to hunt, and how to survive on this land. And they sort of make a treaty. And this is where the first Thanksgiving dinner, or what we say is the first Thanksgiving dinner, happened, was between Squanto and the Pilgrims. It was like a peace offering. Well, once word had gotten back to England about how this holy land and glory land that will eventually be called America, it is a religious, I want to say, like a religious asylum. And all these Englishmen start coming over. And when they come over, they decide, hey, you know what? We don't want to share this land anymore. I'm making a long story short, of course. They don't want to share the land anymore with Squanto and his crew. So they just decide, look, we've had enough of you. And they just start executing a bunch of the Indians. Now, this is something, of course, you never taught in your history class. So the Pilgrims go ahead and just like wipe out all of these Indians. Each time that they would wipe out these colonies of Indians, they would have a feast and celebrate, kind of like the Romans did with the Saturnalia. And then, you know, this sort of become a regular behavior until, you know, George Washington said it's only worth once a year, and then eventually Abraham Lincoln makes it an official holiday. But to make a long story short, the real meaning of Thanksgiving wasn't what you are told in school, where you have the Indians and the Pilgrims, you know, being friends, sharing a feast together. I mean, that only happened one time. For the most part, it turned into a feast or a party every time they slaughtered a bunch of Indians. That's why you'll find a lot of Native American Indians do not like the holidays. Having said that, I feel a bit horrified by wearing this dumb ass Pilgrim hat since I've been lied to my whole life. So screw the Pilgrims. Well, that's the way it goes. Maybe got off on a little bit of a rant there. But that's what this happy hour is for. It's for us to share our thoughts and feelings and have a little bit of whiskey. Now, let's talk about the stock market here. Big week. It seemed like all-time highs every day. Kind of expected that. When you get the lighter volume throughout the holiday, you sort of run into this melt-up markets, which to me is one of the worst because it's just not something I've ever liked. So we're going to take a look at a couple of styles. We'll first start out here with the SPY itself and go through a couple of these charts. Now, when we look at this SPY, this thing is just motoring at all-time highs. And what you're seeing here is, because the market was only open a half a day on Friday, the thing's still ramping up after hours. Like, everybody's afraid they're going to miss this rally. I mean, you're now, since the election, you've gone from 210, you're 11 points in the rears here, and people are still chasing this. So there could still be more buying to the upside. I would have to think that if the scenario plays out to where the market gaps up first thing Monday morning, I would really be spreading my short trades across there with this much froth in the market. But we'll see how this plays out. I expected it kind of to stay here because of the way Thanksgiving week is. But maybe after we start talking about interest rates in December, we can see something a little bit different. Now, as far as individual stocks, there are a lot of bullish setups potentially if the market continues to display this. One I hate even bringing up, which is ACIA. Quietly, this former beast of beasts is just been consolidating here for the last month plus. If you look at the daily chart, which is on the very bottom here, this thing has poked its head around this 79.20 for quite a few weeks. I think if you see that lift above that, there is no resistance until you get to that 50 moving average and the last sort of breakdown zone, which was 88. So it's a $10 potential move if this thing continues to be that way. Now, as far as a day trading stock, it could be kind of rough because with this, you can see the intraday movement, which is on the chart above. It's kind of shaky. It's back and forth, ramps, pulls. You know, if you're day trading, you can long and short this. Swing trading, you're going to have to give yourself a little bit of flexibility because it's kind of a wide mover. But I think if you see this move that goes above 80, you know, you're going to see this thing try to make a march up towards the 90 level. Now, if any sector has gotten some love, which is understandable, was biotechs. You know, we talked about this before in past whiteboards that, you know, the Democrats, their platform was controlling drug prices, bringing the cost of health care down, which was looked as a negative. That's a different agenda than the Republicans have, so it's understandable that once they had sold off pre-election that these things would bounce. Now, since that, people have had a chance to digest a lot of this information. And as you look at it, there are a lot of these that are setting up just like ACIA. They're flagging on the daily, which is just really holding their initial gains and ready to break out. One is blue. I mean, you look at this blue, a couple of shots just like ACIA at 64.50. You start seeing 64.50 go, you'll probably see a move that tries to get up towards the 70s, the 75s, you know, providing that the market stays the way that it does. So blue, and I'm just bringing up blue. There's other ones like this ARIA, you know, XBI, LABU, some of those, just the indexes. You see this ARIA, same thing. You got like a triple, quadruple top or something, some garbage like that up here at 14. So you can see this thing. I mean, you know, if the bios want to run and they break these levels, you're probably going to see more running. Now, if they gap up Monday, and that's the first move that you see, I would take a different stance. I would really be net short on these because, you know, you're talking about moves like, for example, this one was $8 stock to 14. And if you're opening at 15, 16, you're talking about a 100% move in a stock over a very, very short period of time. Odds are you're going to get some profit taking, which would benefit you to short probably rather than long. Same thing with, you know, a lot of like IIIN, one we talked a little bit here about on Friday, which is, you know, this thing's up over 100% here since reporting earnings on the 20th of October. If you see the bottom chart, this thing was a $22 stock. Now at $42, $20 move here. And I know that, again, you know, you understand the move in a lot of these steel stocks when you start looking at what the Republican agenda was: infrastructure, immigration, open season for biotechs. You expect those to run. You expect the spec money to flow into those. However, I think you've gotten to a point here now that we're going to be about 1 month post-election that you're starting to look at some stuff that I really believe has gotten maybe a touch out of control here. I like this one short here. I mean, just for the fact that it's up 100%, it's not the only steel company in the world here. But it's just something that you got to take a look at here and thinking if these things gap up and continue to show strength early Monday, I think your best bet is on short. Now, if you start to see pullbacks or flushes, I would change my stance a little bit because still, until proven wrong, buying the dip is the way to go with these, like, especially in biotechs and especially in some of these infrastructure plays. So we'll see how that continues to work as the week progresses. So that's going to do it for now. That's going to be happy hour, a crazy happy hour, and a pretty good one. Glenlivet, let's do a recap. Glenlivet, the Glenlivet, actually, because it says the on the glass. The Glenlivet, not too bad of a scotch, pretty good. Would I go out and spend it? No, it's not my flavor, but like I've said before, that doesn't mean anything. What I like doesn't mean that's going to be something you like. That's the beauty of scotch and beauty of whiskeys, beauty of wine. If you like wine tasting, everybody has the different palate and they like different things. And some people think this just absolutely sucks. Everybody is right, because what really matters is what it's like for you. We also learned a little bit about pilgrims. I don't have time to go, of course I didn't have time to go into the whole story, but if you're ever interested about learning about true American history and true history, often the things that we are taught in textbooks are much different than what happened in real life. And you owe it to yourself to kind of learn, especially if you are an American, about the true details of your country, because as we like everybody, like to, portray themselves as being above board and great, we've done some dirty things, just as every country has. We're not holier than thou either, so we have done some dirty things to our people as well. And of course, we talked a little bit about the market. The bottom line with all of this, with taste testing, with learning about history, is you can't just believe everything that you see. Success in life is about finding the true meaning of who you are and the things that you believe in and living by that code. So how this all ends up eventually relating to trading is you will hear a lot, like you could say the history books are the media. The media forces certain topics on you. You turn on the TV and you got just preaching doom, preaching gloom. We talked about this in the past couple of whiteboards that, if the Republican wins a nomination, this market was going to die. It was going to be a disaster, just like the Brexit. We've already gone through this. They feed you this. It's up to you. It's up to you, the individual. And the same thing goes on for stock market trading, for businesses. There's always going to be naysayers. It's up to you to do the research. Go by your gut feeling and your experience and learn from the things that happen to you, because history just repeats itself. That's all it ever does. All we're doing as traders is living off of past history. When we look at charts, we look at economical events, we look at political events, we match them on things that happen. And now that I've been in the trading business for over 16 years, going on 17 at the turn of the year, I've been in this spot where I feel I've seen all of this. I've seen crashes, I've seen crises, I've seen bull markets, I've seen bear markets, I've seen speculation, I've heard of horrible presidents, crashing oil, inflated oil, seized electricity. There's been all of this stuff. And my point is, this is what makes you successful as a trader. In the beginning, you will learn from these mistakes. You will document these setups, these charts, these patterns, these types of trades. And as time goes on and you put in your screen time and your market time, you will learn from past experiences. And at some point, if it hasn't already happened, you will come to this revelation where you say, I've seen this before. I've lived through this before. I lost money doing this before. Now I know what not to do and how to profit on it. And then it becomes, rather than a tragic situation, it becomes a great situation. For me, it was the .com. When I got stuck in that market crash, and I remember the .com and how tough it was. Where I got my revenge was years later in 2008 when the credit crisis came by. I said, I've seen this panic before. I know what happens in this situation. And I was able to kind of redeem myself from that. And you will too, as a trader. So kind of remember that as we go forward. As I always say, if you guys need a little bit of help, make sure you visit the LincolnList.com. Well over 230K now for the year on our day trading account alone. Lincoln Million over 45%, which is our swing trading program. Both newsletters turning in well over, going to turn over 50% gains before the year's over. I'm sure of it. I think the day trade now is about 120 some percentage points for the year. So, if you're looking, and it's not about percentage. That's not what this is about. It's about learning how to trade. There's more to it than I said before. Hot setups, stock pickers. That's not how it works. You have to learn, you have to see it, you have to do it, and it comes by repetition. So anyway, thanks for listening to my story about pilgrims, my stories here about the Glenlivet. Hope you enjoyed this happy hour. As always, if you just need me, you want to talk to me, support at thelincolnlist.com. Thanks for watching this video. Enjoy your day. Talk to you soon.